Texas. And I'm Hunter Hernandez. Today, what we're going to be talking about is some of our past in powerlifting, the sport of competitive bench press mainly, all-time records, and some of the history of things that went down that we feel the general public needs to know, and there isn't a lot of information out there about. So to get started, basically, I'll tell a little bit about my past and some things that I've done. I got started in powerlifting when I was 14 years old. I walked into Las Vegas Athletic Club, and I was about 90 pounds, and I tried to bench press 95 pounds, and I got stapled by it, just stapled. And I was really, really disheartened. So I came back the next day. And saw a guy bench pressing 700 pounds, right? There's like 30 people standing around him. I'm freaking out. I'm like, who's this dude, right? So I walk up to him afterwards, and I'm like, hey, man, what's your name? What are you doing? He's like, my name's Corey. I'm a power lifter. I compete in bench press. And I was like, that's awesome, man. Will you teach me how to bench press? Well, first thing he says, what are your grades like? I said, they're okay. He says, if you can keep your grades up, I'll train you for powerlifting. I said, awesome. He says, don't ever flake on me. Show up to workouts, and we got a deal. So that's what we started doing, man. We started bench pressing, and he started teaching me how to overload weight. He got me my first bench press shirt, the HD Blast from John Inzer. It was $32. And we couldn't get it over my head when I first got it. So Corey, being Corey, took the back of the shirt and ripped it in half and put it over me like an open back. He said, there you go. So anyway, I got into competing, did a few meets out in California, broke California state record as a teenager, which was really awesome. And then I went out to USPF Nationals in La Mirada 2009, and I bench pressed the world record for the USPF, which was really, really cool. That was like my first, like a breakout meet where, I got to meet some other people. Mark Bell happened to be there competing in single ply, hit over 800-pound bench that day with a mohawk. It was kind of cool. So later on, I ended up going to the Olympia Expo, and I run into this guy, Mr. Tiny Meeker, and he walked up to me, and he's had the biggest arms I had ever seen in my entire life on a human being, and the biggest forearms I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I'm like, who is this dude, man? And he was just like a spitfire of energy, man. He's like, yo, man, I'm Tiny Meeker, and he was just like immediately just like rocked your world. So we started talking. He told me how he could bench press 1,000 pounds, that he hadn't done it in competition yet, but he's like, man, I can bench 1,000. And you want to know something? I'm going to be the all-time record holder. I was like, that's pretty fucking cool. So fast forward to the following year at the Olympia, and I see Tiny again. He's working at the GLC booth, which is a great product, by the way, GLC. If you don't use GLC or you haven't heard about GLC, hit up Tiny. So I walk up to the booth, and I'm like, hey, man, you remember me? And he's like, of course. And we start talking, and we take this awesome picture. You guys got to check it out on the internet. It's me and Tiny and Popeye throwing up the forearms. I'm a tiny little kid, obviously, at the time, so looking scrawny, but, it's a pretty cool picture. But anyway, Tiny says, hey, man, if you're really into bench pressing and you're really into wearing gear and shirts, why don't you come to Worlds? And I said, Worlds, World Championships. He says, yeah, man, I'll talk to the president of the federation. We'll see, I'll tell him what your bench is, and we'll see what he thinks, and we'll see if we can get you an invite. I said, okay. So we did that, and Gus ended up giving me a call, and Tiny sent me an invite, and I ended up going to the World Championships in 2010. So that year, I competed.
Did we just freeze up?
Are you freezing up?
It just froze up for a second, but we're back on now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Wobbler Worlds 2010. Awesome experience for me. I got a single ply Rage X from Tiny. He called me, he made sure, he's like, you got a shirt, man? And I said, I got another brand shirt. I'm not gonna name the brand, but he's like, oh no, man, I gotta get you in a better shirt. Let me send you a shirt. So he sent me out a shirt, fit like a glove, and it was really cool because I got to the World Championships. And I ended up going 4 for 4 that day. And if anybody knows anything about powerlifting, when you go 4 for 4, that means you broke a world record. So I did that again, which was freaking awesome. I was a 123-pound weight class. I was a teenager, so I ended up winning the world championships for the first time. Following that, I ended up winning a total of 5 different world championships after that. Most of them in Wobble, but I also won other world championships as well for different federations, which the reason why, I'll get into that a little bit later, was, I needed competition. Being a lighter guy back then, bench press only. The pool was not very big. So, at the time, if you put up a number and it was decent, you were top dog, which was awesome for me. you know. So fast forward basically to um, some of the experiences that I saw that were, just unbelievable in regards to Tiny Meeker. Some awesome things. The super lifting was just amazing. If you guys ever seen the video from the Mr. Olympia Expo, where Tiny's doing, I believe, 13 or 15 reps with 600 pounds. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Tiny, was that not the same type shirt or same shirt that you benched 1,100 pounds in that you could touch 600 in, correct?
Was same shirt.
Okay. So just for those people out there that, tight shirt, this and that, no, Tiny could touch 600 pounds in the same shirt he benched 1,100 pounds in. So, you know, but basically I just wanted to get into some of Tiny's past and some of the things that, I saw, growing up as a kid that I thought were cool, and I wanted to get his perspective on it and like what was going through his head, because I know what was going through my head when I was watching him do those things on stage, but I'm curious as an athlete and as the top dog, where he was coming from, what his humble Texas beginnings were, and and just where he got that fire from. Because one thing, if you guys ever meet Tiny, you'll realize that the man has a switch, and what I mean by a switch is most of the time he is with the bench press king, Tiny Meeker. I'm Hunter Hernandez, and we're just getting off the topic in the last video here. Oh, GLC 2000 shoulder saver. Anyway, we're talking about the switch, and basically what that is when an athlete gets to a point in their life when they are so fine-tuned at a skill that at any point they can show that mastery. They can unleash it, and they can be a normal human being 1 second, and the very next second they become something that is all time. Okay, so what I mean by that is his intensity and his ability to get fired up, and anybody can get loud and yell and kick things and make a scene. Tiny doesn't do that necessarily. Tiny, you can tell he starts racing in his brain, and he's kind of pacing. You see him kind of start to get fired up and start sweating. And it's almost like he's kind of getting anxious, almost like similar when you see somebody kind of starting to get like an anxiety attack. They start getting kind of pale and sweaty and shaky, and that's Tiny right before he's about to bench. Most people, when they start to feel that way, their stomach hurts, they feel off, they feel disheartened. Tiny, he takes that energy and he's able to focus it and just explode, man. So, like, what I mean is I've seen him in the warm-up room slowly kind of changing and transforming as the weight went up. And what I mean by that, it's not physical transforming. I'm not talking about, certain friends of ours that blow up and get super huge off of doing a couple reps on the bench press, and all of a sudden they gain 2 inches on their triceps. No, not like that. Not like that. No, it's a mental transformation. You start to see the weight moving, a little bit crisper, a little bit, just prettier each set. Even though the weight's going up, it's looking better and better and better. And by the time he gets to a grand, it's flawless. Like it's the coolest thing to watch. So pretty much what I want to get into here is your history, how you got started in the sport of powerlifting, and what your drive is, where you see yourself going, in the future. But mainly I want you to talk about your start and why. Why did you get started in bench pressing?
Well, I don't know what to say now, man. That was such an intro. I'm just speechless now. I think I'm just going to end the interview now. No, actually, just like you, started when I was 15 years old. This May will be 35 years of lifting. So started powerlifting my sophomore year in high school. I played all kinds of sports, basketball, football. Loved them all. I played some baseball. Didn't like baseball. Actually, probably did a tiny bit of track, not much at all. But anyway, no matter what sport I did, I usually did pretty good. But the problem was it was always you're too short, too this, too that. There was always some too BS in it. Even though I can make all district in this, I can play this, I can play that. Powerlifting was the one sport. Didn't matter what you look like. I mean, you had to weigh in, but either you're strong or you're not strong. And the cool part was I mean, I really, literally love the sport. I love the lifting, and I always had an intensity in it when I did it. Now, one thing a lot of people don't know is I was a Ritalin child for first grade to 12th grade. And my 12th grade, I actually quit taking Ritalin on my own because I hated taking it. I felt I had all kinds of issues from it that I didn't like. And once I stopped taking it, a really nasty side kind of came out that was much more aggressive in me than already was. So that was kind of fun. But
Right.
anyway,
You
so
and I
when I
are
first
similar in
started,
that way. I had no idea that about you, but I had a similar experience myself. But we'll talk about that later.
yeah. So, when I first got started, it was raw. I didn't know anything about equipment until much later. Actually, at age 22, I was actually benching 605 pounds raw. That summer, I went from
Hold on.
five
How old were you?
22. I was doing 605 raw. And that summer, I actually did a 500, a 545, a 565, and a 585, all within the summer. And my good friend Kenny Olmstead, who was spotting me each one times we did it, was just blown away, and so was most of the people in the weight room.
Where were you training at the time?
Where?
Yeah.
Actually, at Humble High School, I was still training in my old high school gym. So I
Really?
did work out, yeah.
Did you know Bob Garza at that time or no?
Who?
Bob Garza?
Not yet. So, so right around a little bit after that time, I started training at Bally's Total Fitness, and during those times, right after high school, kind of my senior year on, I was working nightclubs. So I did nightclubs for like 13 years. So I was always working out, staying strong because I was bouncing, I was bodyguarding, I was doing all kinds of stuff like that. And one day I was at this Bally's in Greenspoint area here in the north side of Houston, and a guy saw me bench pressing. I was doing over 5, and he walked by. He goes, "Hey, you ever thought about powerlifting?" And I was like, "Powerlifting? Still powerlifting?" He didn't realize it was around anymore. And he goes, "Yeah, I'll let you know when there's a next meet and stuff." And lo and behold, I got a call to come out to actually watch Anthony Clark lift in Houston. And to go back a little more, when I first started powerlifting in high school, we were actually looking at the records. And Anthony's a little bit older than me, but we see this guy that benched 500 pounds in high school. We're like, what the freak? There's a guy from South Houston High School benching 500 pounds. And, here I am now, years later, I'm getting to see this guy lift. So we're at the Texas State Championship. I believe it was USPF meet. And I watched Anthony 2 times try to squat over 1,000 and ate it massively. Both times fell backwards. And he gets up and he goes, "Darn." And I was like, "Darn." I'd be like, beep, 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 beep. I'd have been cutting my brains out.
Right.
But, even after what he went through, I go back there and I meet him, and he was super duper nice. And we kind of start chatting a little bit. And then lo and behold, he was actually working nightclubs too. And he was working some other clubs, and he'd come by my club. And, I kind of see him every once in a while. Kind of got a slight little bit of a relationship. Well, anyway, so then I get another call to do my first meet out of high school, and I go to Austin, Texas to lift at Hyde Park Gym, and I'm there, and I did a 5. I don't even think I did 500 this show. I'm wearing a shirt for the first time. It's slicing the living daylights on my armpits. I'm not a happy guy. I'm not happy with what I lifted. I got second place. I'm sitting there telling these guys. There was Colin Rhodes there, some other lifters I can't totally remember, and talking about how I benched 600 pounds and this and that raw, and here I am putting this bench shirt on, and I'm not even benching the same anymore. It's like, what the freak? But there's Anthony Clark. He's at the show, and Anthony puts on one of his shirts, and he benches 600 for 8 reps, which I think is just the funniest thing in the world to watch Anthony rep 608 times, and then lo and behold, who has the world record for repping it now? Heck, Julius might break that pretty soon raw, but anyway, that's another story.
That
But
which you're
but
completely
even
enough.
as disappointed as I was, I go up, and again, me and Anthony start talking, and I actually had the whole interview on a VHS tape somewhere, and he talked to me for like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes, telling me that I should do more back, I should do this, my triceps, just go into all of my different training that I need to do.
Now back work.
Oh yeah, I mean, just it was so cool, I mean, because here's the greatest guy or the greatest lifter in the world at the time, and he's giving me everything I need to know, and heck, I took it all and went after it.
Right.
So after that, if I go a little more, I'd say the most I ever did in the blast shirt may have been close to six. No, it was close to six, maybe mid fives or something.
Now
Then
that 600 for reps Anthony Clark did, was that in the blast shirt?
that was in a double ply, maybe even a triple ply blast shirt.
I didn't even know they made multiple ply blasts.
And it was, oh yeah, and it was reversed too. So it was either a double or triple. And then of course we switched to denim. And if I'm correct, in the denim, I got my first world record. I did 606, and I think it was Tim Isaac's record who I took the 605 from. And around that time, I started meeting a guy named Tom McCullough. And again, I'm still kind of talking to Anthony. And they start talking to John Enzer about me. And they're like, hey, there's this guy, Tiny Meeker. He's kind of coming up. You know, he's got good attitude, da 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 da. And anyway, long story short, I was told I was going to get a call from John one day. And it's like, oh, okay. So anyway, so I'm leaving my town home, about to go to work, and my pager goes off. Yeah, a pager. It's a little thing that you used to wear on your belt. So some of the young guys that don't know what that is. And there's a number on there, and the number that I see is, hey, wait a minute, this is a Longview, Texas phone number. So immediately I pull over and get on a payphone, and I call the number, and lo and behold, it's John Enzer. And John starts chatting me, hey, Tiny, this is John Enzer. Hey, John, how's it going? You know, and he's like, hey, I just want you to know you've been doing really good. I hear you're putting some great numbers, and I was just wondering, what equipment do you use? And I thought for a second, I go, well, John, all I wear is Enzer except for my wrist wraps. I never wore Enzer wrist wraps before. And he goes, Tiny, you don't wear Enzer wrist wraps? And I sat there for a second, and I was like, well, John, I can't lie to you. I've never tried them before. And again, John goes, Tiny, you don't wear Enzer wrist wraps? And I'm like, shit. Well, John, again, I can't lie, man. I've never tried them. He goes, well, Tiny, tomorrow I'm going to send you 2 pairs of Enzer wrist wraps. And from this point on, you just give me a call, and anything you need, Enzer Advanced will take care of you. And all I want you to do is wear Enzer Advanced designs. And I was like, hey, John, can you hold on for a second? Oh, okay, sure. You know, and I was the happiest guy in the world, and, you know, got off the phone, and I'll never forget that conversation to the day I die. You know,
okay, do me a favor. Explain to the general public right now why that was a big deal. Why John Enzer, that name that you see on T-shirts and at meets and stuff like that, why was that so substantial to get a call from him back then at that point? And why did that differentiate you from other athletes? Like the internal, like, holy crap, that's exciting. Athletes today might not understand what you mean by that, or what you're talking about with an equipped, manufacturer like that produces bench shirts, squat suits, things like that. With Raw being, predominantly popular right now, not many people lift in equipment. So explain to the people watching right now that maybe the Raw lifters why it was cool and why it was so important to get a call from John Enzer at that point in your life.
Well, first of all, back then there was Powerlifting USA magazine. So when you look through the magazines, multiple pages had advertising for Enzer Advanced Designs. Back then, I would say there was Enzer, there was Titan, there may have been Marathon, there were Safe shoes, but the majority when it came to bench shirts, and really the only bench shirt back then, was Enzer Advanced Designs.
Right.
And I think Crane may have came later on, and I'm not sure if Ricky Crane had a shirt out yet. I'm not sure, but anyway, but if you look through the magazine, it was Enzer. So to get the phone call from the man himself, that's another big deal, because for most athletes, most people, whether John sponsors you or not, almost never get to talk to John. They're talking to a manager or someone else. So it was a huge deal to hear directly from him. The next big deal was the fact that basically I was told anytime you need anything, you give me a call. And to be quite honest, it was practically unlimited. You know, as the time went on and we started wearing the denim shirts, I mean, dude, I'm not kidding you. I probably got 75 to 100 shirts in a year. Mm-hmm. It was crazy how many shirts are getting. But,
now, explain to the general public why that's important to have so many different shirts and to be able to try different things, and the difficulty behind multiply powerlifting and why it requires so much like trial and error, I guess.
Well, I think a lot of times with the denim shirts, and even all shirts, it's a difference too. But even more with the denim, when you start gaining or losing weight, those shirts dramatically change. Plus, they stretch out, and sometimes they could. I hate saying this. Sometimes shirts could blow. I mean, shirts now are made of much more better than they used to be back in the old days. But in the old days, I mean, those shirts can explode, and it's like a tire exploding. Here we are coming down with all this weight, with all this massive pressure, and then pow, a shirt explodes, and that weight can come crashing down. Either you can handle that, or bad things could happen. Luckily for me, I've had some shirts explode, but nothing bad.
2011 Waffle Worlds, I was standing right there. That big ham of a tricep popped out of the back of the shirt, but it wasn't the shirt's fault. It was already a little bit torn before you had put it on. And you showed it to me, and you're like, "What about this hole, man? What do you think?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Tiny." And you're like, "All right, we'll see what happens." And you warmed up. You're like, "I think it'll be okay, man." I don't know, Tiny.
Pour some water on it.
Yeah, like 3/4 of the way down, a couple inches from your chest, and boom.
But
you shot it up for a little bit too before they took it after it blew, because you got, obviously a little startled by it, and which was incredible in and of itself.
But another crazy thing, a lot of my blowouts that we figured out, kind of like what you were saying about growing, I would lift and my arms would be about 20 and a half, close to 21 before we start warming up. By the time I'm fully pumped, they're about 23.
Right.
That shit's going to go pow.
Right.
So there was a lot of problems back then. But then, so the most I got out of my denim, I actually did a 716 in the denim. And then later on, of course, the Rage and Rage X shirts came out. So first it was the Rage, of course, a single ply shirt where the denims I wore were double ply. And then with the Blast and Extra High Performance shirts, they were all single as well. But anyway, so here I am, been wearing these denims for a while, got a 716. And we're getting prepared for some other meets, and I get this new shirt called a Rage. And when I first get it, I pull it out, and I'm thinking, what the heck is this thing going to do? It's like thin, it's light as heck compared to this heavy denim shirt.
Right.
And I actually think I may have been around Bench America 2, Bench America 2, when they first kind of came around. And
what was Bench America for people watching that aren't aware?
What's that one more time?
What was Bench Press America for people that are not aware?
Well, man, Bench America was really cool. And unfortunately, the first one I had a bad experience, but they took the best, I'd say the top 5 in every weight class. Didn't matter what federation you wore, didn't matter if it was tested, non-tested. They got the top 5. We all could wear almost anything we wanted, and basically all competed in Chicago, and it was on national television. It was freaking awesome. The only bad problem is here, I think it was going to be the show where I'm really going to come out, probably be the best 275 pounder in the world. And unfortunately, I cramp up on national television. And in this show, if you miss your first 2 lifts, you didn't get a third. So my first 2 lifts, my left leg is just flying up in the air because I'm cramping like crazy because I'm dehydrated. It was like 102 degrees in Chicago, which is pretty darn rare. And in the back, the only thing they really had was energy drinks and not water. And hey, I was loving the energy drinks, and next thing you know, I'm just cramping like crazy. So bad experience on that one. But the show itself was incredible. And I know we'll talk about him later, but that was actually the first time I got to see Scott Mendelson in person. And, back then to me, Scott was like a freaking gorilla. I mean, I know Anthony Clark was enormous, but it was a different Scott, man. It was much more almost bodybuilding looking.
Yeah,
but the dude was
I
just
remember that.
massive.
He looked a lot different back then. I would agree, and it was incredible to see.
And I think that's the show when he first hit 800 as well, too. And he had a lot of publicity on him. It was overall, it was a great show. It could have been even better. I almost feel like if it was in a different city or state, it probably would have been even bigger. If they did that in Texas, maybe even Vegas, who knows how big that show would have been.
Right.
But it is what it is. It was a fun show. But going into the Rage shirt, so I get this Rage, and man, I'm trying to touch in this thing, and I'm getting heavier and heavier and heavier the weight, and finally I'm in the 7s, and I'm not even touching because I'm trying to break this shirt in. I was like, man, what the freak? Anyway, long story short, I became the first guy to ever bench 800 in a single ply shirt wearing the Rage, not a Rage X, the Rage. And it was fun because me and another guy, Bill Gillespie, were going back and forth almost at least every month, trying to be the first guy to get 8. I'd go a mid 7, he'd go mid 7, 760, 771, 782, and then basically Bill missed it at this other show, and I go, don't worry, Bill, it's going to be over after the next meet, and then bam, I hit it. And it was kind of fun because I did that in Houston, and I opened up with 760, smoked it. I missed my second. I missed my third, but in the Federation, if you're going for record, you still get your fourth attempt if you hit your first one. And on the fourth attempt, nailed the 804, and the first guy in history to bench 800 in a single ply shirt.
Right.
So, then after that, double plies come. But if you want to have any more questions there.
Yeah. As far as like when you felt that there started to become competition, and you felt that other people may or may not have been intimidated by your lifts or the fact that you were coming around, I want you to talk about basically what it was like back then as far as like the competitive nature in bench pressing and multiply bench only, and because when I was growing up, if you were the multiply bench only guy, like, those were like top dogs, you know what I mean? Like there was two crowds, there was the guys that were going for the all-time total, and there were guys going for the all-time record bench. And I hate to say it, but you walk past the guys going for the all-time record bench, you're like, that motherfucker jacked. You gotta look at the guys that are going for the all-time total, you're like, yeah, that's a big dude, and he's a big dude, I mean, but it wasn't like the benchers were up like I think the upper body mass that it requires to bench that much weight, the triceps and the shoulders, was visually very, very appealing as a young guy growing up and wanting to be muscular and working out and starting out, training in bodybuilding, watching Arnold and Conan like everybody else did. The reason why I, as a young guy, was so attracted to watching that and wanted to be like them was because I met them in person. And when you see these guys and when you meet them in person, like Scott Mendelson, there's just a presence about them. There's like an aura, and you realize that aura is extremely powerful, and everyone he interacts with can feel it and can tell in the room. Like when that guy walked in the room, you could tell without him saying a word. You're like, the man is in the room. Like you could just feel it. You know what I mean? And so the like internal drive to want to eventually, but potentially be like that someday is what, pushed me to want to go into, multiply benching. So I want you to talk about, was Scott Mendelson that for you, or was there other guys or, people that you aspired to want to beat, to try to be like or better than, or who was that for you?
Well, actually, I think I'll go back even further. I mean, because of course, like I said, you had the Powerlifting USA magazine back in the days. And another thing that Powerlifting USA would also have is they had a video, and every month or so this video would come out, and you would actually see these lifters for the first time. And just like you said, it's one thing you kind of see them, and it's another thing you see them in person. Even for guys that weren't nowhere near this weight were just massive little guys. Greg War, I mean, big, little, thick guy. Dave Waterman. I mean, for when I first started doing money shows, it was Dave Waterman was the man. I mean, little dude, short as heck, just like a freaking bodybuilder. But I think he was like maybe 181 pounds and, benching some ungodly amount of weight. And a lot of the shows for the money were pound for pound. Mm-hmm. You had, of course, Anthony Clark. You had Ted Arsini before that, another enormous man,
Question for you. Who was more intimidating in person, Anthony Clark or Scott Mendelson?
Ooh. Well, when Anthony walked in the room, that was pretty amazing. I mean, he's not a tall guy, but he was so freaking thick. I mean, you're talking a guy maybe 5'7", 5'8", definitely around 360, 370,
Right.
Big, gigantic arms, big, gigantic legs. I mean, he had some belly to him, but everything on him was just thick. When Scott walked in, Scott has a different aura to him. Anthony's a quiet guy, super nice. I'm not, but Scott just brings a whole different level to him. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I'll get to Ryan later on too. I remember the first time I saw Gene. You know, Gene walked by me, made me look like a little kid.
Right.
you know, he was a freaking massive dude. Gary Frank. I mean, all these guys were just massive. I mean, another guy that from the past, um, Kenny Patterson was a short, really, really
Yeah.
thick guy. You had George
Right.
Halbert.
Hmm.
Halbert ended up getting very lean, but again, huge pecs. Uh, who was the other guy? The most massive guy, I think, when it comes to dramatic weight losses and weight gains was J.M. Blakey. I mean, if I'm correct, I think J.M. maybe gone from 198 all the way up to super heavyweight and
Right.
went down breaking the records. I watched J.M. lift in Louisiana the night before he weighed in. He was 242 pounds and he dropped down to 219 overnight. That was freaking insane. And then I see him at the next show when we're lifting in Florida, and he's over 240 something pounds again, and just again massive chest, massive arms, but just super strong guys. But
Right. So
kind
James
of,
Blakely, you would say, and Anthony Clark, where it would be more so like when you were kind of coming into the sport, they were kind of like idols, I guess.
oh yeah, Anthony was definitely an idol. I mean, he was hometown favorite. He was, super super nice guy,
Yeah.
uh, always approachable. and
Yeah.
and that's something I looked at Anthony, how I would definitely want to be that way too. I mean, if someone walk up and talk to me, I mean, like you said earlier, I, when I'm warming up, when I start kind of changing, I'm
Right.
pretty darn intense. But if someone walks up, hey, Tiny, can you get a picture? Yeah, I'll stop everything I'm doing, take a picture, and then go back to being psycho.
Right. Well, because you understand the importance of what you're doing and why you do it as well. I feel one of the reasons is, you like to entertain people, and one of the things is when a crowd roars for you when you hit a big lift, you feel like the man. So I mean, that can get addicting, I'm sure. You
Oh
know.
yeah. But sometimes some of the things that go on the show makes you madder and madder and madder too. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that don't go the right way, whether it's judging, whether it's hey, it's going so heavy they don't even know what to put on the bar anymore, and they're trying to pull a calculator to add up what's supposed to be on the bar, and you're sitting there wrapped up, waiting, going freaking nuts. Next thing you know, I'm sitting on the front row going, just put every damn plate on the bar, what's loaded, and I'll go lift.
Right.
World Championship for Wobble, true story.
Right. Whatever you brought, whatever they got on the
Yeah,
truck.
it's loaded, I'll do it. Add it
Exactly.
up later.
Hey man, I'll never forget Wobble World. You told me, "Oh, you know what, man? You should sign up for deadlift and tell them to load 1,000 pounds on the bar." And I said, Tiny, I'm 120 pounds. What the hell are you talking about? And you said, yeah, man, trust me. Look, you go up there. It's a deadlift bar. It's gonna bow. So you'll pull it. It doesn't have to break off the floor, but you'll be the lightest man in history to ever attempt 1,000 pounds forever.
See, but you didn't do
Didn't do it. Didn't do it. Should have done
it.
it. Should have, when all these guys pull 1,100, be like, man, I attempted 1,123 in 2010.
See? Yeah, you had your chance and you passed on it.
Yeah, missed out, missed out. But going into more people, you mentioned Ryan Kennelly.
Yep.
Um, he was a huge influence for me too as a kid growing up. Like I mentioned to you in another conversation that the all-time record benchers for me back then were like watching the Bash Bros in baseball. You know what I mean? Like Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. That was cool. But home runs wasn't appealing to me. Big ass bench presses was appealing to me. So Ryan obviously was a massive, massive force in that. I love watching his speed and his ability to just move weight incredibly fast, and the way he would bleed from the face and stuff like that. So talk about when did you meet Ryan Kennelly? What was your impression of him? And then how did your relationship with Ryan change throughout your powerlifting career?
I actually met Ryan first in Dallas, Texas at the Wabdol Nationals. And I'm not sure if Ryan was even 21 yet or not. Or actually, I think he may have been 22, 20, 24 years old, somewhere around there. Because I think Ryan's about to be 43. I'm about to be 49, somewhere around there. But anyway, we met first time. I can't remember what he benched. He benched 700 a few years later. Here's what I want to say, even before I get to this, is when I got into powerlifting, back into powerlifting, I was more like 28, 29 years old, but I felt like a little kid when I'd go to these shows. One, I was still working nightclubs. I'm living this nightlife. So to me, going to the shows was like a big ass party to me. It wasn't even as serious for me yet. I didn't even take these meets very serious yet. I mean, I went and did my first money show in a bench bash for cash. And
Mm-hmm.
after the meet, we're at this nightclub, and I'm like, hey, shots for everybody. And Candy Patterson's there, Dave Waterman. I go, here, yeah, one shot, one shot. They're like, oh no, we don't drink. And I'm like, you don't drink? Power lift for power drinkers, man. Let's go. And I'm doing these shots, and they're like, man, are you always like that? Yeah, every day. Anyway, so then Ryan, me and Ryan hook up, and we take him out to Dallas to go party and stuff, and we were having a great old time. And then we come out of this club, and there's some UFC fighter. I have no clue who he was, but there's some MMA guy, and he's got his red Corvette parked out front. And Ryan just goes and jumps in the driver's seat. We're like, what the freak are you doing? He's like, this car is cool, But what was sad was we were in. I'm not a Dallas guy. I'm a Houston guy. And when I go out around Houston and stuff, these don't really happen. But I can't tell you how many idiots walked up to Ryan, got in his face, were like going, hey, why don't you go get in the gym and stuff? And Ryan handled the situation really cool. But I was actually, felt sorry for him, and I was offended by it, because I was thinking, man, we're in Texas. Most people don't act like this. They're being assholes.
Right.
But Ryan, even then, Ryan's always been a really tall guy. He's almost 6'4". Back then, I think he was 242, but still, he was massive. He
Takes
was
up a lot of space. He's a big individual. Yeah, I've met him.
I mean, the people to me were stupid to walk up and say that to him. But from that point on, me and him kind of built on a friendship, and to this day, we're still really good friends. And of course, we've had our battles in between. I mean, we're competitive.
Was there a particular battle that you if you could snap your fingers and go back to that day and relive it again, just because it was that freaking cool with either Ryan Kennelly or Scott Mendelson or both, or was there a particular event or a certain day where you're like, man, that day was just fire?
Well, nothing was better than, of course, the super lifting in Dallas and, of course, Olympia. But the Olympia wasn't as good because what happened at the Olympia. But in Dallas, it was probably the best battle I ever had in my life. Me and Scott kept tying for repping 600 pounds. And the first time, I think we both did 12 or 11. And the next one, we both did 10. Then we come back again. And Scott did, I think, 6. I did 7. And he says we tied again. I'm all, we're both laid out on the freaking stage because, we're tired, and he says we tied again. I said, we tied again. I said, we did. I did one more. And he tried to argue it. I said, okay, fuck it. Let's get up. Let's do it again. And I go to get up. And, oh, no. You win. But I did win, But
Right.
He won for the biggest reps of the show. I think he may have repped either 9 or 950 there. I repped over 800. And then, of course, the next show was the Olympia. And there was a lot of miscommunication coming to the show. Some people thought we were going to go for all-time records. Other people were talking about it was going to be super lifting. And it kind of went – it was supposed to be super lifting. And don't need to get into all that drama. But anyway, that show, we started off to open up with 1,000 pounds, and we had to rep it. And Glenn Russo goes first. And if you've seen the videos, the plates are taped there.
I was physically there.
Yeah. And Glenn almost lost his head. And really, Mindy's big spotter guy actually pulled it at the last second. If you watch real close, it smashes his hand on the bench because he grabbed the weight at the last second. And me, being the psychotic person I am, I'm like, there's other people all terrified thinking, oh my God, people are going to die in this meet. And here's me psychotic going, hurry up, let's go. It's my turn,
Yeah, the bar's not too bent. Can we reload it, please? That thing freaking over that bench. And you want to know something? That's actually, so I was talking about Corey, obviously my my lifetime coach and everything like that. That was his force of bench. So I grew up on that bench, actually. In his garage, we used to lift in there a ton. And, I was always spending time doing all my accessory work, laying down on that bench, doing rolling tricep extensions and all kinds of stuff. So I spent a lot of time on that particular bench. And it was cool seeing all you guys do 1,000-pound attempts, 600 for 13, watching Glenn Russo almost take his freaking head off on that same bench, and I'm like, that's my bench. Like, it was just cool, at that time. And interestingly enough, that's the same bench that Mark Bell borrowed for his slingshot booth that a lot of people came by and ended up trying out the slingshot for the first time. So,
there you go.
on the fact that, and now that Forza bench actually belongs to Brandon Allen in Las Vegas at Filthy Power Gym. So if you want to go and bench on that bench, I'm pretty sure it's still there.
I got a good custom bench myself, so
Yeah.
But it's good to have the memories on there. But I would say definitely the super lifting. It was it was a blast. If there was another show I'd want back,
Right.
I definitely want back some Bench America shows, and I would definitely want to go back to Finland to lift again in Finland for that big money show. But
money or was it Finland?
Back. Huh?
I said, was it the money or was it Finland that you want back?
Oh, the money.
The money.
For sure. There's never been a meet pay that kind of money ever.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day still hasn't again.
Right.
$30,000 is a lot of money.
Hey man, who wants to see some big bench presses? These guys are all available. That's what people don't understand. Me and you were just talking about the other day. Is like, you guys are capable. You're in shape. Ryan's in shape. Scott's in shape. You guys can put up the numbers. It's just the motivation to. You know what I mean? Like, look at NFL football players and the brain damage they go through and the tearing up their bodies and long-term thing. Why do you think that they do those things?
Well, you're talking about him. I mean, look at Ronnie Coleman. I mean, the abuse he took, and there's a lot of people that say different things. What happened to Ronnie? There's plenty other guys in that same sport that have done a lot of crazier things. Maybe his lifts were a lot crazier than the rest of them. Who freaking knows? But regardless, that was a lot of wear and tear in his body, and he's paying a price.
Ronnie Coleman was doing 20s with everything. Like, he was repping heavy weight, but he's doing freaking 20 reps. That's a lot of strain on your body at that point. I mean, we're all human, man. Even the king of bodybuilding himself,
Yeah. But now we're doing 600 for 40.
Yeah, getting into some other topics, and moving on to some other individuals and things like that. I just wanted to know, your opinion, because there's a lot of changing going on in the world of powerlifting, and the sport of bench press in particular has gotten some new fire. It's gotten a new light. It's gotten a resurrection by the name of Julius Maddox. He's come along and he's just taken the bench press world by storm. First, it was the fact that he came out of nowhere and benched 700. People are like, holy crap, this is another Scott Mendelson. And then all of a sudden he hits 740 and people are like, oh shit, he's stronger than Scott Mendelson. And he benched 770 and people are like, who is this alien and when is he going to bench 800 pounds? So I want to hear your opinion on Julius Maddox and if you think he's physically capable of bench pressing 800 pounds. Raw.
Met Julius, I think the first time in Houston, if I'm correct. Either I met him in LA. I think he's a super nice guy. I have a great relationship. He's I consider him a friend. I think he's absolutely amazing. He's an absolute enormous human being. If you see pictures of us beside each other, he really makes me look like a little kid.
Does he make Scott look small too?
What's that?
I said, does he make Scott look small too?
Oh, he makes just about anyone look small. I mean, I guarantee you he's probably somewhere a little bit over 6'3" or right around 6'3", and I bet he weighs anywhere between 460 and 470. He is enormous. He's not a fat guy. He is an enormous man. But I got the pleasure of watching him. I've seen you haven't said it yet, but James Strickland lift a few times too, since we're in the Raw guys.
Right.
But we were all at the Arnold, myself, Ryan Kennelly, Jimmy Call. And we were all on the stage cheering for all these guys, wanting to see some massive lifts. So we got to see TD do his first 700 and more. But with Julius, when I saw him in Houston, we were actually talking that he was telling me, and this is over a year ago now, that he was going to plan on benching 800. And when I saw him do his other lift, even before the 771, the one he did, I guess it was at Mark Bell's meet, correct? The lift he did there. Yeah. When I saw that, I really believe this guy can hit 800. And when he did what he did at the Arnold, I have no doubt he's going to hit 800. And actually, what's kind of crazier, there was a word around the warm-up area when he was warming up that he said the night before either his shoulder or tricep was kind of nagging him. And I was actually back there with Ryan saying, if I was hurting, especially doing raw, I'd probably pass on the meet, because there's too much on the line right now. And we were watching him warm up, and yes, he looked fast, less aggressive, but then all of a sudden he dropped the weight down and he was doing some more reps with a lot lighter stuff and some other things. So we were first actually thinking, he really was being bothered, but someone said he got worked on and he was feeling good. And then when he came out there to lift, man, dude, the heavier the weight went, the more faster speed that lift went. And
sounds like something very similar.
What's that?
I said, sounds like someone very. It sounds similar to someone else I know.
You just get more intense. Yeah, you get more intense. You get more focused. Right. But man, I mean, the sky's the limit for him. It's amazing. It's fun to watch. Me personally, I don't care if someone's raw. I don't care if they're equipped. Big lifts are big lifts, and it's fun to see. Now, there's some other issues that are going on that's a little different, but I hope to see James Strickland do his 700 eventually, and who knows where TD's going to go. It's the sky's the limit for that guy too. I mean, his speed, watching him warm up was incredible as well too.
So, since you hold the all-time record bench press, and we'll get into that, the only man ever in history to put 500 kilos in his hands, bring it down to his chest, and press it back up. Where do you feel Julius would be in a shirt? And if he decides to go that direction and maybe go after your record, would you be supporting of that? And would you offer to help him? Or?
Sure, that'd be fun. I mean, I don't mind helping people. The only thing I want is I would hope I get respect to say, hey, thank you. I helped you out here. When Eric Spoto was the all-time world record holder raw, me and Eric were talking one day because Eric's a real nice dude, and you've met Eric before.
Oh yeah, I trained with Eric.
And Eric was telling me that he actually tried a shirt before, and the most he ever felt in his hands was 855, and he thought he was going to explode. Mm-hmm. He said he can't even fathom the kind of weight I was doing. And I said, well, I can't fathom that you were doing that raw stuff yourself, But it's a whole nother world with this type of shirt. Now the other ones, who knows what could happen.
So now you're talking about the other ones. Real quick, before we get into this, since you were talking about the history of a shirt, now from my understanding, when the shirts were invented and John Enzer got the original patent, it was a clothing item patent, and it basically said that it was a full shirt with forward-facing sleeves, right? Okay. So what I believe you're about to get into is the band type material, and the sling type, material that they're now basically sewing a T-shirt on the back of, and claiming that is a traditional bench press shirt. Which, I mean, I have my own opinion on that, and I'm curious about yours, and where you feel the sport is going, the progression. Many sports change and they get different equipment, just like ours did for years, going from the HD Blast to the Rage to the Phenoms to the the Overkills to the all the different crazy materials that are out there nowadays. As far as from what I've noticed, the sling type material, there's no learning curve, and you're able to just slip it on and get quite an advantage, unlike what we talked about with you going through thousands of search to get the right one. So I'm just curious what your opinion is on that, where you see the sport going, and what do you think about bands?
Okay, well, let me go through the history kind of quick first, and I'm gonna get to that. Of course, we kind of talked a little bit how we went to the Rage and this and that. So from the Rage, it went to the Rage X. From the Rage X, I got my first 900 in a single ply. When we switched to double ply Rage X, I finally got my first time world record of 942. Eventually also hit a 970. And then another shirt came out. It was a Super Duper Phenom. And the first person that was actually wearing that mostly was Gene. And even before I did my 9 and stuff like that, Gene was the first guy to do 900. Gene was the first guy to do 1,000. And if you looked at a lot of the meets back then, the Arnold Classics and all that, you didn't see Gene lifting those meets. Now, there's some stories out there that supposedly there were certain lifters that were in people's ears saying that shirt shouldn't be legal, that they shouldn't allow it, kind of like what's going on with bands.
Right.
And to be quite honest, in my opinion, next thing you know, Ryan Kennelly's wearing it, and Ryan's smashing records, and all of a sudden it's the greatest shirt in the world. And then everybody was wearing it. Because, as a matter of fact, I think when Mindy first started kind of coming up, getting his 800 and all that, I think he was wearing a denim Klein shirt, if I'm correct. I don't think he was wearing Enzer yet. And then, of course, when he switched to Enzer, Mindy might be the only guy that's hit 1,000, I think, in a denim shirt, possibly too.
Well, I thought that was in a Phenom, the first 1,008.
No, I think he may have been in a different type shirt. I don't think he was in. I have to go back and look at my pictures. I think he was in a denim or something. I have to go look. But regardless, then the Phenom came and then the guys were doing this and that. So now here we are with band shirts. My argument, which has always been the argument, is it's not a shirt. It doesn't have sleeves. And people will go, oh, yeah, it does. There are sleeves. I go, no, they're not sleeves. When a guy benches and you're in a a normal bench shirt, whether it was the Blast, whether it was a denim, whether it was a Super Duper Phenom, the opening by the arm does not open up. When you wear these band type shirts, they open up. You can actually see that
in daylight. Yeah.
Yeah, it opens up. But the thing is like what you just said. See, first it was just bands, and bands were made great. The slingshot and stuff. It was great for training purposes. It actually.
So you do feel that the slings are a good tool for training purposes, and that they can aid potentially with some injuries and stuff like that. You agree with that point?
Yes, but I don't think they're great for warming up, which I think is dumb when people see them in a warm-up room and then they want to go put a shirt on. To me, watching that in a warm-up room is kind of like what all of us were back in the old days. Half of us were benching 500-600 raw before we ever put a freaking shirt on, and the most we'd ever bench was a high 600 or 700.
Right.
We went all of our time warming up raw, Right. Now you got these guys, they'll go put a slingshot on, will sit there and rep 500, 600, and they can barely bench 700 in a regular shirt. So anyway, Mark Bell had a great deal. It came out. It was helping people to learn the form and technique better. Again, what you just said, for people that had injuries, it kind of helped your shoulders pinch back. It taught better form. And when you got better form, you're not going to get hurt.
Right.
But then here comes these other makers. And I really hate putting everyone's name in, but there's another ex-big name lifter that made his own type of band thing. And somehow he got it.
Had a successful career in single ply. So I don't understand the motivation of wanting to change material, but okay.
Yeah, and then somehow, some way, he got it into Texas high school powerlifting.
Right.
And for Texas high school powerlifting, it was such a big deal because one, he was selling it really cheap at first. All these schools were buying it. And if you ever go see a Texas high school powerlifting meet, it's absolutely insane. There's hundreds, if not almost 1,000 kids. 15, 17 platforms rocking like crazy. It's an incredible meet to watch.
Right.
And a lot of these kids take off and put the same shirts on each other. They're here, your turn. Well, now they have this band type shirt that was easier to get on and off, and they're hitting numbers that no one ever thought they'd hit. But the problem is, once they leave high school, they're going to college. You can't wear that in college, so now you kind of look dumb. But the reality is, if you also look how those shirts are made, that's not a single ply anymore. That's a double, because it's a band going around the arm, and then it's coming back across the chest again.
It's like a figure eight, so it's almost got multiple, of compression. I also believe that that's why you're able to get so much spring load out of it with, so little effort.
Yeah, because what's happening is, unlike the shirts keep everything tight and stuff. But when you use that band, if it comes down straight, its reaction is incredible. The bench shirts aren't necessarily doing that. Like when you wear a Rage X, a lot of the guys are going to get a lot more out of a Rage X off the boards because you're not getting so much abuse to your body when you're coming down and you're touching. With a Phenom, A phenom, yes, you'll get more stretch out of it and you'll get more reaction if you're touching the net. But where a lot of people make mistakes is they rush these shirts and they never get out what they really could have got out of it.
Right.
But when you put these bands on, dude, there's guys that ain't done nothing in this sport, and all of a sudden they're benching 800-900 pounds. And
Right.
if they try to go put a shirt on, they can't even bench 600. And matter of fact, there's some guys who haven't done 700 in a shirt since God knows when, and all of a sudden now they're benching 1,000.
Yeah. So it just goes to show, that progression in sports is going to happen, but that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be the new norm. Like, things are going to pop up and things are going to become available, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody has to jump ship on the way that things were done before. And my personal issue with the way that they're changing materials and the way that things are going now is records. So just like Bill Kazmaier was pissed when his 661 got broken by a man in a bench press shirt, totally understandable. That should have been a bench press shirt record. At the time, spoken about, saying this is a record done in a shirt. The raw record is 661 by Bill Kazmaier. Okay, right? But that's not what they did. They said the new world record is 700 pounds. Okay, my opinion now going forward with these new things, with these new bands, that's not the way that we did it. That's not the way you did it. That's not the way Ryan did it. That's not the way that the all-time records were set. When the original 1,000-pound barrier was broken, it was done in a shirt, a real shirt. An Inzer Advanced Designs, original design shirt, that the patent looked like, which is a full shirt. And the difference is, I feel, like you were saying with recoil, and control of things. With the shirts, the way that they were bound, like you said, they're much safer because they keep you in tight like that. But you have to learn that groove, and every single shirt is different, and it's going to react different with different amounts of weight, different body sizes. The sling takes away all of that. Whether that's a good thing or not, I mean, I guess for people that don't want to spend the time learning the equipment to get the most out of it and start at one place and potentially gain a skill and be 100 pounds better at it like you can with a shirt, they want to skip all that and go straight to something that immediately gives them 200 pounds, 300 pounds, 400 pounds on their bench. They want to put it on and immediately get that immediate satisfaction, which I feel, as somebody who has personally had to work through many shirts and figure out how to bench press, it is disrespectful for them to qualify that as the same type of record as that's a shirted bench or a multiply bench. And I also feel that there needs to be, I hate to say another category in powerlifting because we have a million records now, but you know what?
But it has to be.
Use different equipment. There needs to be a category for that. Look at, any other competitive sport where they have multiple avenues of different types of the way to do things, like shooting. Look at how many different guns there are and people competing in different things like that. And they have different categories. You're not going to compare one versus the other. Ability to hit a target. You know what I mean? Like, you can't compare a rifle handgun to the same target and say this is the same competition. It's not. Okay, you're bullshit.
Take drag racing. Almost different cars, different speeds.
Like, I just posted on a Facebook group, that talks about bench press, and I was mentioning my personal opinion of raw versus geared lifting is basically NASCAR versus Formula One. And the reason I feel that way is multiple reasons. One, Formula One has a higher top speed, okay, which makes it more dangerous. Not only that, Formula One, if you're off by a quarter inch with their twists and turns and the way that they do things, the risk ratio is a lot higher versus NASCAR, which, I mean, they go fast and they're incredibly impressive, but they know that same circle every time. Formula One, the track changes. It's always, very, very unpredictable. And those cars being at the level that they're at and their acceleration power, that's how I feel it's different than raw lifting. And when, as far as like multiply goes, because when you put on that shirt, you have this super car on you now, right? You can go super speeds, but the difference is you got to be way better at handling now. And you got to be smart and be able to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. Because if you're coming down with that weight and something shifts, the bar rolls in your hands, Plates are a little off centered and they're not locked in with the collars. It's a lot different in that shirt when you start coming down, binding down, trying to figure out that groove and get that recoil, versus just raw lifting where you can go work in. Like raw lifting for me, I call that rehab for real lifting, because that's what allows you to get, strong and feel good so that you can actually work out and put your shirt on and go up. It's like you lift raw because you get your body ready, and then you throw your gear on and then you lift, like real weights. So I guess basically the difference for me with these new band shirts is I just feel like people aren't earning it, man. They're just throwing it on and, immediately going from there.
Well,
Do you feel like that's going to be a bad thing going forward, or are you?
well, but let me say this: when Enzer first came making his equipment, first and foremost, equipment was made for safety. Straight up. First and foremost, it was made for safety. Back in the old days, there was guys running around with purple hamstrings, purple pecs, purple arms. They were all blowing their arms out. They were all blowing their hamstrings. They were getting tears. So John made equipment so you could lift safer. His first and most goal was to make the sport better and safer. So the next thing about these shirts was when you took Bench America, I want to say 2, that's when I'm not even going to say the guy's name because I'm going to give him no cred, but he started throwing him a big old fit that certain federations had to start keeping different categories so you could qualify for the single ply meet, because it was a single ply only meet, where the first Bench America was multiply. And the only way they would know if you did a single ply was they had to make separate categories. So the point is if you're going to make a separate category for that, why aren't you going to do it for a completely different type of shirt? It's just like comparing wraps and sleeves. It is not the same freaking thing. I'll argue it all day long. I have no problem with it being in the sport, but it should be a different category. You had at one time only 5 guys in the entire freaking world that ever bench 1,000 pounds. 5 guys. You had you had Gene, you had Mindy, you had Ryan, you had myself, you had Dave Hoff, now you got Jimmy Cobb, and then there's another person. That person should be in a totally separate category. It's amazing he did it. He's 60-something years old. I'll say it's Bill Gillespie. I don't care. But, it's great. But it's totally separate category. I'm sorry. If you ever put one of those things on, you do a lift, you'll get up and you'll act like I didn't do anything. And maybe I'm a weirdo, and maybe I just like to feel like I actually did something when I lift. But, when you used to put these shirts on and you take a shirt off and you're all red and marked up and all that, dude, that night,
the fights.
yeah, but that night when you go home and you're trying to go to bed, I'll take me, for example. When I first started messing with 1,000, 1,100, 12, and 1,300, every night that I'd come home and do one of those crazy lifts where there was a training or meet, my body would pretty much go in shock. It felt like I took a freaking beating. And the weird part is I kind of liked it, and I'd ice down and stuff to recover. But it would take a few more weeks to a month before I go back in the gym and do some crazy numbers again, But you had to learn it. You had to feel that line and figure out what was the perfect line to hit that groove to get what you really could get out of that shirt. Now I'm seeing these videos of people in these shirts or these bands, and they're coming down, and all of a sudden they're just making one slight move, and it looks like their arm's about to break and the weight's flying out of their hands, Usually as far as if we're coming down and we slightly miss our groove, you could possibly lose that bar, but now it's a lot more violent drop than it was back when stuff would go wrong with us.
Well, there's no way to maneuver your arm and control it in that because it's shooting you from the back. Unlike a shirt, which binds from the side and kind of pulls you in a little bit differently, so you've got a little bit more like elbow play and ability to kind of figure it out for yourself. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know.
Well, I can't speak for all these shirts because I've only wear Enzer Advanced Designs, and right now Enzer Vines doesn't make something like that. And if they do, hey, maybe we'll see something. Because
if Enzer were to create something in that category, would you wear it?
if it's made by Anzer or Advanced Designs, there's always a big high possibility, you know. But
Right.
until that happens, I'm not going to go wear anyone else, and I'm happy with what I'm happy with. I
Okay.
mean, I still, you know, a lot of people don't know I had 3 car wrecks in 2017. I got hit from behind twice, and I got T-boned one. That's why I kind of disappeared for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always been hungry. I mean, my biggest, you know, you asked earlier, this is probably the biggest thing I regret. I really wish I would have hurried up and did 1,200 before I had the car wrecks. And unfortunately, I wanted to get paid. I did 1,100 for free. I wanted to get paid for 1,200. I mean, I've heard there's some huge rumors that Julia's going to get paid big time if he bench 800 pounds. Why the hell could I get paid big time for
And all
benching
those big
1,100?
deadlifts that Eddie got
Huh?
paid, you know, these big
Yeah.
deadlifts are getting massive money. Thor's going to get a ton of money. You know, after Brunson going for this world record. Oh, yeah, that's another topic, by the way. Speaking of, you know, 500 kilo lifts, since you're one of the only other human beings on the planet that's lifted 500 kilograms, how do you feel about Eddie Hall's deadlift record and your opinion on not only his record, but the fact that Thor is going to try to break that record in his own home gym, not at a competition during this current situation? What's your take on Eddie's deadlift and, you know, Thor attempting to break it?
Well, you know, Andy Bolton's got to have the record to begin with, and it doesn't seem like Eddie has a problem with it. So I don't know how to really answer it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The funny part is it's amazing how times have changed. Where before everyone wanted certain lifts done at certain records, you wanted the judges. You know, for me, when I did 1102, there was people complaining that it wasn't in a bigger federation. This, that. Well, if you go back and look at all these other lifters that have lifted in some of the shows they've done, hey, Minnie did 1,008 as a guest lifter at a bodybuilding show. You know, it was actually his meet, his judges, and everything. I went 4 hours away from my house, hauled my kilos, hauled my everything would be official, made sure the meet was sanctioned, lifting it in a flight, didn't for no special treatment. I've heard stories when Gene was lifting and most of them were in his own federation, got to lift whenever he kind of wanted to lift. I mean, I wasn't there. I don't know if that part's true or not. I just don't know. Ryan used to lift at Pride meets all the freaking time with 100-pound plates. Who knows on what 100-pound plates look, you know, really do weigh. Don't get me wrong, he did a beautiful 1036 in Russia, and he's done some unbelievable, outstanding lifts, you know, for the Arnold Classics and a lot of other stuff, you know. But regardless, no matter where people lift or how they lift, someone's going to find something to discredit it, no matter what. But when you're doing your own lifts at your own gym and it's on video and it's not in a meet, fuck, man, I've done some of the greatest lifts of my entire life in training. Why aren't those counting? You know what I mean? I mean, shit, I've done 12, 13, 1,400 in freaking training.
You got both off the boards. I've seen it in person. Yeah.
I mean, I know, I guarantee you, you know, I've heard some stories about Scott's insane lifts in training. And to be quite honest, I bet they really are true.
Yeah.
But, you know, Scott just, you know, I bet you Scott in the gym is completely different Scott at a meet. I guarantee you Scott's probably not throwing up in the gym when he's training compared to meet time. He gets upset stomach, and I don't know if it's nerves or what it is, but that can take a toll out of a lifter. But dude, if people never saw Scott warming up back in the old days, it was freaking insane watching this guy grow. Now, me, and I know I'm kind of getting off topic on stuff, but since you're talking about the other lifts, the deadlifts and the squats and all that, man, I watched some of these guys do other lifts, and it made me completely change the way I warm up and the way I lift because I saw them doing certain different things, you know.
Right.
But
who in particular do you feel like made an impact on your ability, like your choices in some of those, you know, calls and your warm ups maybe, or you know the way that they progressed in their lifts, or you know, like you're saying, was there certain individuals that stood out?
I watched Andy Bolton lift at the Arnold Classic one year, and I was watching him warm up. and every lift was extremely explosive, and there were singles. Just one lift, boom, bam, drop it, boom, bam, drop it. And I'm watching this, and I started thinking, man, screw all this rep and stuff warming up. And I then started going to, like I said, way back, we used to warm up 500-600 raw, go put a shirt on and do what we do. Well, when I really started kind of making my changing and figuring stuff out, I do 135 for 10, 135 for 10. If I didn't feel right, I do it again for 10. I'm not going to lose any energy, and I'm probably about to give too much information to people that could probably beat me one day, but fuck it, I'll tell you the truth. Then I jumped to 225. Do it for, 6 to 8 reps. Again, 6 to 8 reps. I jumped to 315 for a double, 315 for a single. Boom. Now, in the old days, I would jump to 405 for a single, 500 for a single. But then I'd go from 315 straight to 900, straight to 1,000. Bam, I'm opening up a 1080. Now, the funny part about that, maybe jump there, was watching Pop lift one day. And I was like, if he's going to open up that high, I'll open up higher. And that's kind of how things got going there too. You just see certain lifters do certain things that may be outstanding, and you feel, hey, I've done a lot more of this in training. I'm already warm at this way. Why am I messing around with other weights? Let's
So
go
do you
for
feel
it.
that that's a technique that elite athletes use to perform or to build? Now, do you feel like if you were to do that throughout your earlier parts of your career, would you have had the same success, or was it because you already had such a foundation and you were just kind of fine-tuning the gears and not wasting as much energy?
Well, the better way to answer that is the knowledge was better now than it was back in the old days. That's the exact same reason why you're starting to see more guys lift more weights than ever. I mean, guys like Julius. I mean, who knows what Scott could have done back in the days if his knowledge was different. There's better equipment, there's better benches, there's better bars, there's more people using kilo weights in the contests and stuff.
Right.
Um, it's all the above. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
who knows?
You
In
guys
my
were your own coaches, correct? You mean you did all your, as far as like coaching goes or getting guidance, you, Ryan, Scott, you guys were pretty much on your own, correct? Figuring things out, or did you guys hire coaches?
well, I had Bob Garza first, kind of got me going.
Right.
Luckily for me, from high school all the way to Bob, I had really good guys teach me technique. One thing I always tell people is I don't just have 30-something years of experience. I got 30-something years of failing and watching others fail and learning by their failures. I learned at a very early age not to overtrain. A lot of people just couldn't believe the fact that I always told them I only bench one day a week. They're like, well, what about speed day? Every day's fucking speed day. I mean, you ever watch me lift? I mean, if I want another day, it's recovery. It's not to lift more. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm trying to be freaking strong. I'm trying to be the best in the fucking world. I can give a shit if I have ripped abs or not. Now, some other people might want to sit there and bitch going, oh, you don't look strong or you look soft. But I mean, they don't look soft to me. But yeah, I had a little belly, but I learned to recover because if you're going to meet beat up, you ain't going to do shit anyway. Used to read the Powerlifting University magazines all the time. I'd read a guy got hurt a few weeks or a month before a show, didn't get to train for a few weeks. All of a sudden he goes to meet and he had the best meet of his fucking life. Why? Because he actually let his body recover, you know? So, when I start getting ready for meet, way out before the show, I'm doing insane shit. I'm doing shit you never thought I'd ever dream of putting in my hands or whatever. But by the time I'm getting closer to the show, I'm only working on openers and I'm working on speed and even faster speed because in that way, when I come to the meet, I'm fresh as shit and anything's possible. I'll give something to Ryan that one thing I love about Ryan, and again, Ryan's much younger than me, but I almost feel like I'm younger than him on his mental part of how he was when he go to a show. We're in Iowa, and there was a lifter telling him that he was going to break his record. He just kind of laughed it off. And yeah, good luck with that shit. But I love the cockiness, and it wasn't just. I don't want to use the word cocky, but it's just he was definitely that mindful that he was going to do whatever he was going to do, and there was no doubt. And I think once I became that type of lifter too, dude, you knew when you were walking in that room, anything go wrong, it don't matter. You're going to do it. You know, the money shows, when I first started doing the money shows, I didn't know how to really prepare for that. Ryan knew that well. You know, you go in, you warm up, you're all jacked up, you're pumped, and all of a sudden, almost every single one of them, there's this huge, big ass drop of just everything stops. I mean, you go to the Arnold, they want to pull you up on the stage and introduce you to everyone. You know, you're already warmed up, ready to go, and all of a sudden, you got to calm the fuck down, relax, get introduced, and then try to get your mindset. And most time, if you're taking, pre-workouts, all that, you're going to be so jacked, and all of a sudden, you're just going to drop dead. You're going to crash.
Yeah, when you're going like a bullet, 1,000 miles a minute, you can't change directions. Like somebody, they can't get in your way because you're just gonna lay them out. Like,
So I learned that I changed my workouts again when I was getting closer to a show. I would take huge breaks before I'd go do another lift. My team would be like, "Hey, you gonna go?" "No, I'm waiting. I'll just go lift off everyone, help spot, do whatever." 45 minutes went by. Okay, I'll do a lift.
Oh, so the power lift for 45-minute between set thing, that was on purpose due to the fact that the shows weren't organized very well.
And you're preparing yourself for the worst.
Right.
And I'm telling you, for whatever reason, most money shows, you better prepare for the worst because they don't exactly always run very smooth.
Right.
You're going to be more prepared for a meet running fast than you're going to be for a meet running really slow.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Right. Well, your adrenaline's going and you're burning through stuff, so your reserves, you know what I mean, depending on where you trained your body and anxiety and stress wise and how you kind of keep your blood sugar as well. And I could see if you get real hype and anxious right away, and then you have to come down and then come right back up again, how that could definitely throw off your energy and your ability to, just feel good and feel ready to go.
Well, back in my old days when I used to take this pre-workout called methyl EFX, which they don't make anymore, for whatever reason, that stuff would
That stuff that made me barf during Worlds.
It made me psychotic though. I'd be sitting there, we'll start warming up, and all of a sudden I start growling, and every other word would be a cuss word, and my training partners would be like, "Oh shit, he's on that EFX again," and the next thing I'm going freaking nuts, So I don't take that stuff no more.
No way.
But I'm definitely a much more chilled lifter these days, and it's going back also why was that I had a huge chip on my shoulder. I really felt disrespected much of my career in lifting, and when I would go lift, I'm releasing a lot of freaking anger.
Disrespected by who? The powerlifting community?
When forums came out, the forums were just freaking horrible. I mean, I don't even look at them anymore.
Mainly at the time when that first came into existence.
Say that again?
So like internet trolls when that first became a thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. Sure, just horrible things people would say, and my crazy self, I'd go read it to get some anger build up, to get momentum to really want to destroy. And I'd even crack jokes to some of my competitors, said, tell your boys to keep talking shit because I'm going to keep coming as long as they're talking. But once I got it, man, I really didn't care anymore. It was just a massive relief off my shoulders. Mm-hmm. But now I'm kind of starting to get hungry again. Almost want to go look at a forum and see if people want to talk shit.
Well, that's what I'm kind of thinking. So, okay, I know that, Ryan has made some videos recently talking about training and working out and potentially having, some interest in maybe wanting to do a show again. I know Scott is typically always in shape as far as I'm aware. I've never seen Scott out of shape or weak. Do you think that, as Rocky would say, is there anything left in the basement there where you guys do you have a motivation to compete against them again, or is it just a personal thing?
Well, we've all kind of chatted someone or another. I mean, me and Ryan talk pretty often. I talk to Jimmy too. when I see Hoff, and I mean, I talk to Hoff.
Mm.
Mindy, we talk a little bit, but I think we all got the fire regardless. But it's like what you said, you almost you need something to really light the fire. It'd be nice if a big money show would come up. I mean, the kind of money that you're hearing these strongman guys and this and that getting to go to a meeting, oh, well, you might win $1,000 or $1,500. I mean, shit, that barely pays for your travel these days.
Right.
So, what's the inspiration to do it? I mean, every one of us got a record before or had a record for a long time. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I was,
the argument that if you watch Eddie Hall's deadlift record that got a lot of money and got a lot of notoriety and got a lot of fame for, he's in an Inzer deadlift suit wearing straps. So he's equipped, fully
yep,
equipped to the max with every available piece of equipment for that particular lift that exists. There is zero other equipment that he could have worn to benefit that lift. Okay? Why is that any less or any more awesome than a 500 kilo bench press wearing the exact same brand of equipment?
I held mine over my face.
Yeah, and your
So,
in your hands, and last I checked, you didn't strap your hands to the bar bench press.
I also jumped up and ran around after I did it.
Yeah, you didn't. You didn't look like you're about to die. Now on that, no
I
disrespect.
actually attempted, hey, I actually attempted another lift after I did it too. I actually tried 11:35 right after. So there you
Yeah.
go.
So I'm just I feel like people's opinion on that and the fact that oh, that's a geared bench press versus Eddie was a deadlift and deadlift is more raw power. But let's get it real. The suit and the straps help.
Yep,
Otherwise, they wouldn't wear it.
for sure.
They wouldn't wear it. So they're wearing it, and I don't know if Inzer is necessarily a sponsor of that show. I think they just choose to wear the suit because they know it works.
That part I don't know if he sponsors it or not, but yeah, of course it works and it also keeps them safer.
Correct.
You know,
So I personally, as a fan and somebody who's grown up in the sport, I would love to see an event like that, and I've even considered potentially trying to promote and try to get people on board that are willing to spend some money on this thing because I want to see it done. You know, as far as at least getting you guys in the same room again. I feel like the powerlifting community today could learn a lot and they could benefit a lot from having you guys in the same environment at the same time again.
I think what would be fun, sorry to yawn, is what I would like, and I think it'd be really awesome, is if we were all pretty much wearing the same equipment that made us what we made.
Yes.
And you have myself, you have Ryan, you have Mindy, you have Jimmy, and you have Hoff. And I think all five of us battling at 308 would be freaking awesome of a show. But I think it should be a
Like the
big
strongmen
show.
do it, where they just have X amount of weight that's the starting weight, and you go up from there.
Kind of like what? Kind of like superlifting.
But the way they do the deadlifts now and things like that, where they have okay, we're starting at 400 kilos, and the next one's 420, and then it's 460, and then it's you guys either that's the number, and you guys take it, and you guys either get it or miss it, and whoever falls off and gets it last is what I mean.
I think it would be kind of cool if you did something. If you did something like that, I think you ought to get like 2 attempts at each one of those lifts. I mean, that'd be some time and some work there. But if you hit the lift and you go on to the next
Well,
one,
I would say it would be good to do it kind of in the standards of like a powerlifting meet or a baseball game. 3 strikes, you're out. You get three missed lifts throughout the whole event, maybe. You know,
yeah, that's a cool idea.
so that way if something gets
I'm
misgrooved or whatever,
promoting already.
like say you miss your opener because you can't touch, right? Or something's off
Yeah.
with the shirt, you take it again, and then you miss another one heavier, and then something changes, you slam a bottle of water, you come back and you're able to get it again. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, but I mean, you can do 3 strikes you're out, or you can do 2 attempts per lift.
for a lift,
You know,
yeah.
if everyone had to open up an 8 or 900, you get 2 attempts of that. And then, I mean, you're going to get tired. That's to me is the real true last man standing. And then try to get the ultimate goal. And then of course, if you break some all-time world records in that process, then maybe jump the money dramatically up even higher. The hard part of that is, well, if you're gonna do something like that, you probably want everyone to open up around 900 something pounds, or at least 850, and then do 50-pound jumps or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I think it's something that it should be done. And if powerlifters today really care about the history of their sport, and they like to reminisce, and they take value in people that came before them, I feel like it would be a good thing for them to participate in maybe contributing some money, or even if maybe if we got to get you guys like a funding page where people all donate or something like that to give you guys a venue on the day, or whatever the case may be. But I feel like if the powerlifting community loves bench press as much as they seem to, this would be it. If you're gonna promote something, or back behind something, this would be it. This is the kings of the bench, the guys that have been there, that paved the way for everybody else to be able to do what they're doing now, and the guys that paid their dues. So I just feel like now is the time. It's a good opportunity. It's a changing of the tide a little bit. And as the bench press king, this may be a time where you guys come together and do a one leg big last hurrah, and then maybe pass that crown on to the next generation of lifters, guys like Julius. But I feel like there's a little bit left there. I feel like they got one more good show at least.
I think another crazy one you could do is you could have a show, and you call it the 500 kilo show. That goes for squatting, bench, and deadlift. And you can do the straps. I don't give a shit. Equip. And you see whoever's hitting the 500 kilo mark. You get a certain amount of money for breaking it, and then whoever ends up with the all-time record
barrier, right?
Massive boost. Huh?
That's the minimum barrier to get invited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you got.
If you didn't hit 1,000, I'd say you have to do at least like 400 or 450 kilos to get in the meet.
In another competition, you mean?
Yeah, in a competition.
Right. Yeah, Corey did a meet like that years ago with a raw meet. There were the standard was a 500-pound opener or more, and if you didn't have a 500-pound raw bench, you didn't get invited. So, that was cool. That was the first one Eric spoke over 700 at. I handed 500 out to Corey, and then we helped Eric warm up, and we were all out there, his very first 700-pound bench raw, which was freaking awesome. You want to talk about a guy with big freaking arms, Spoto, man.
But you know what? If you take all these meets, you put everyone in an arena like where Eddie did his lift, and you bring the raw guys, let them do their thing. Let the equip guys do their thing. That could be an all-day event of just your top 5 best of that category, whether it's the raw guys, and you can either do 2 or 3 weight classes or whatever, but you want the biggest freaks of the highest numbers, not necessarily pound for pound, but the highest numbers ever attempted. Take the top 5 in each one. Dude, that'd be insane, man.
Honestly, I was having this with my wife, and my personal opinion as a fan of the sport and somebody who grew up in the sport, what popped in my head initially was the thought of a reunion of the gods is kind of how I viewed it. It's basically like if you've broken an all-time record at some point in your life, that's an automatic invite. So all the way from you, Mendy, Steve Goggins back in the squat, because at one point in his life he held it. Ed Cohn, deadlift record holders, Benny, Andy, Thor, whoever, if you've held an all-time record, or we're going to break an all-time record, that would be the meet. I feel like that would be something that powerlifting or the strength community as a whole, not even just powerlifting, because we're involving strongman now in the same lifts. They're doing the same lifts. You see all these strongmen bench pressing now. Have you noticed that?
Mm-hmm.
Guys trying to get to 700-pound bench, they're all finding it a lot more difficult than they thought it was. All of them posted video the first week, and I'm going to bench 700. I'll bench 700. Guess how many of them have gotten close to benching 700?
And Brian Shaw supposed to be going for a 700 soon too.
Correct. Yeah, Eddie claimed that he was going to do it, and a bunch of strongmen claimed that they're going to try to go for a 700-pound bench, but I've yet to see anything close.
So what's the most seen those guys bench yet? I haven't seen any videos, so I don't know.
No, yeah, I think the strongest guy is probably Eddie repping 6 plates at his strongest. He was doing 585 for sets of 6 with a self hand out and a whippy bar, extra long bar that's got whip to it. I guess he trains on to make his stability stronger.
That ain't a good idea.
Well, he does that on purpose to make it more difficult.
Yeah, but that's not a good idea, man. That's how you blow out a shoulder and stuff.
Yeah,
So
that might be something you guys discuss and talk about when, in the future, if you guys decide to talk about what it was like to lift 500 kilograms. I would be interested to hear Eddie's opinion on your 500 kilo lift and, what he thinks about your bench press, given that it was in the same brand of equipment that his deadlift was in. I mean, you can't really say much about the equipment, so I would just be curious to hear his opinion on the lift itself. And
well, here's my opinion. I benched it. I can't deadlift it. I could squat it possibly in a safety squat bar, but I can't squat it on a normal bar because I can't get my arms back to save my life. You know, that's my flexibility right there. So
hey, that's
just
cheating,
for
Tiny.
people to
Isn't
know
that
that.
back
But
up for you? Yeah, you can see
you like my
that's
chair?
the
My
problem.
nitro chair.
You got a built-in bench shirt.
It's my WCW nitro chair, man, from the
Yeah,
Astrodome.
bring that. We'll have a
Sorry, get
steel
off
cage
topic
match
there.
between you and Mendelssohn.
Huh?
I said, bring that with you. We'll
What'd
have a
you say?
steel cage match between you and Mendelssohn.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to what I said, I didn't do those lifts. Can those guys squat it? Can those guys bench it? Whatever. I mean, you got to respect the lift no matter what. You know what I mean? And at least with those guys, except for the straps, there's if Andy Bolton's not going to complain about it, I got no place to complain about it. You know what I mean?
Well, when I spoke to Andy online, I had made a Facebook post basically saying that I still feel personally that the king of the deadlift is Andy and Benny because they did it barehanded. Andy
Right.
reposted that on his Facebook page, and basically he says that as much as he agrees with the thought process behind that, he says the weights that they're moving today are just incredible. So I agree with that statement as well. That 1,000 pounds bare hands is insane. And maybe it got to a point where they tapped out the human body's ability to hold on to that bar with their hands. But they haven't tapped out the back and the legs of the human body. And no one so far has been able to, just disprove that idea and hold it in their hands. So
Well, you know what, Hunter? If there's actually anything out there that I have issues with when you talk about the band shirts and all that, there are videos out there of guys lifting, and there's definitely either something under those shirts, or for some ungodly reason, they're extremely thick across the belly, where it looks like there's a fucking pillow underneath the shirt. And there's plenty
yeah,
of videos out there showing.
I'll
You can
make
actually see
I'll make
one
a
video.
couple comments on that I've noticed personally because I agree with that statement. When I was watching the videos from the Arnold of the multiply lifting,
Yep.
I
There's the
saw
guy that
few lifters up close from the videos that it looked as if they had like a foam pad inside the bench shirt. And if it's apparent to me on video watching from the internet, you're gonna tell me that 3 judges checked in shirts afterwards, and I mean they didn't see that.
Well, no one checked the shirt. What are you talking about?
I guess. I mean, are we in gunslinger days? Is this old west and whatever the fuck,
But, but you can watch one of those videos where the guy actually adjusted it as he laid down, and it's like, what the frick was that? Plus, there's other videos of guys doing lifts where the spotters are actually touching the plates, they're actually touching the bar, the entire freaking lift. You know, when I did my record, I had 3 spotters. I didn't have 5. I didn't have 7. I had 3 guys. 3 guys lifted off, and they all got the hell out of the way. You got guys now doing a lift off, standing over the guy's face the entire freaking lift, and hands are almost right on the bar. How can a head judge actually see the lift if you can't see both sides of the arms anyway? You
Mm-hmm.
know, those are the things that bother me. You know, when there's clear as day something ain't right, it ain't right. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so when you're seeing Eddie do his lift, yes, he's using straps, but it's legal. He can use the straps. There's no one touching the bar. You know, there's all that stuff. But when you're going into benching and all of a sudden you don't have to go as far to touch, I mean, dude, when people sit there and go, oh, his shirt's too tight, that's why he's not touching. No, bro. I touch 600 pounds in the same shirt I bench 1100. The difference is that bar is bending like a mofo when I'm benching. And now I got to go inch and a half to 2 inches deeper just to try to touch my freaking belly. That's freaking horrible. But of course, yeah, I put a board there, a two board. I touched it in a heartbeat and blow it right up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you got guys now wearing shirts, especially these band types, and there's clear as day something underneath that shirt some way or another, or the shirt's being made extra thick across the belly, that's a problem.
Yeah, no, that takes away even more of the legitimacy of an equipped bench press, and just I feel like it leaves um, a bad taste in a lot of the original powerlifters' mouths that did it right the way that we were brought up to do it, which is in the equipment that was widely available, not some rogue. I mean, not the rogue, but just some rogue company coming out of nowhere, and making some random piece of equipment for you to do more. And I just, you know, I would like to see a little bit more standardization across the board as far as the way things are done. Meaning, like, this is the way that it is. This is the standard. These are the brands that are allowed. This is this type of style that we're allowed to permit to manufacture. If you're going to use something different, there's a different category for that, different styles. But shit, John Inzer went out and got a patent. I mean, so far, I'm pretty sure the only one with a patent for a sling is Mark Bell. So if you're going to let sling into a meet and qualify it as legitimate, the one that's allowed in competition, it should be the one with the patent.
Well, I mean, that could be a different little story, but my thing is there's plenty of federations you go to where people do a lift and actually check the shirt or check the suit or check whatever after they've done the lift to see what was credible. And like you just said earlier, if there's three judges sitting there watching the guy lay down and actually see that guy adjust something on that shirt and it looks like a pillow's there or something else, in my opinion, every single one of them should be banned from the fucking sport. You ain't a freaking judge. You shouldn't be a lifter because that's just straight out freaking cheating.
Right.
To me, that's pretty much worse to me than a guy going to a drug test and he's freaking jacked beyond belief. It's like, you did something totally out of the rules. You put something underneath your equipment to shorten the distance of the lift to change everything. I mean, that's it's one thing you break a rule or you lift your ass up off the bench. That's something totally different. You're actually putting something there to change the lift. That's
Premeditated.
illegal. Huh?
Premeditated.
Yeah, exactly.
The different, if you act in the moment, like you said, if your back cramps and your butt pops for a half a second as you're locking the weight out, or the weight comes a little far back towards your face, and because you're so heavy up top that your knees lift and it pulls your butt up for the bench for half a second, that's not something that you can always control.
Right.
Putting a freaking Serta mattress underneath your bench press shirt and pushing, no, that's absolutely something that these guys can control.
Yeah, why don't we start benching with bench blocks then?
Yeah, I love training with bench blocks. I love benching off boards.
We'll start doing bench block contests, or we'll start lifting. We'll start maxing out in the power rack with reverse bands, and all of a sudden we'll be doing more weight than ever that way too.
Yeah, I mean nowadays technically you can just video in your gym and it's a world record, right?
Oh, I got to do that real soon then.
You know what? We'll put those bands on there, Tiny. We'll load up 2,000 pounds. Fuck it.
I'm down. What's up there? Why not 2,500?
Yeah, right. Okay, so realistically speaking, if you guys got the old phenoms, the ones that you guys used to wear back in the day, what do you feel is possible at this point?
For me?
Correct.
Or all the above?
Both.
If I'm okay, the biggest factor I'm having right now is I'm definitely much lighter, and I want to stay much lighter. And I'm pretty sure Ryan had the same issue too. Is the material's a little different? It's still stretchy, maybe not as stretchy, but it seems like there's slight differences of how it was made before and now. If I was able to get the same shirt made the same way and fit the same way, honest to God, I think I'd still hit over 1,200.
Right. And that's not to say anything, about the current shirts. You still love, obviously, Inzer product, and you feel like they're the best shirt on the market, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But where I'm getting at is over the years, the Phenom shirt material has changed for whatever reason. I don't know. It has more aggressive material. It's had stretcher material. But when you use it, I've always mastered whatever I got out of it. But since I've lost, I went from 320, 330. Right now I'm 290, and I don't ever want to weigh over 300 ever again. And to be quite honest, I'd like to try to eventually get down to the 250s and see what the heck I look like and see what kind of strength it is. And a lot of it's more just being healthy and happy, man. I just want to be happy in life now. I mean, I've had a lot of friends go away lately. I'm about to be 50 in another year, and I just want to enjoy life and be happy and just have fun, So when I lift, I just want to have fun with it and do it safely. That's another reason why, of course, I still want to continue wearing my Inzer Advanced designs. I want to do it safe.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but if I can find the shirt to just to tweak out a little bit here and there and fit the same way, I honestly, I still think the sky's the limit. I mean, it's just it. Ryan even feels that way. I really talk to Ryan a lot more than I talk to Scott. Well, I say hi to Scott, tell him, he'll tell me he loves me, brother, and all that stuff, and told me he misses me, and I said, well, I miss him too. Scott's a cool dude, Scott. But Hoff, I mean, Hoff's still putting insane, crazy numbers up in his shirt, and Jimmy wears a different maker, but hey, man, to me, Jimmy and Hoff is definitely always the future, but Jimmy's like dialing in the things that I would do and is learning, pretty quickly. Plus, he's very young. He's not a heavy guy. He definitely can put more size on. He's got a short distance. I mean, he's definitely built like a bencher. You know what I mean? You take Ryan. Ryan's so tall with long arms. The Phenom to me for him was the ultimate shirt because of the stretch out of it and stuff. Where with the Rage X's and all that, I think Jimmy's more of that type of a guy, that type of shirt. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then again, like a Hoff. Hoff's not a tall guy, and Dave's just a freak, straight up.
Yeah.
Dave Hoff.
The red material. Have you ever used that personally?
Red's the only one that I never truly liked too much. I never got my best out of the red one. I absolutely love all the black materials. I really like the aggressive black, and I love the really stretchy. I like this blue material. I just got to get it to fit me better still.
So it's the sizing.
It's still about sizing. So my problem is I'm not sticking to my weight really well, and once I figure out what I want to do, I think we'll be there. When you go back of where I think I had a lot of problems in my lifting was back in the old days, I was constantly changing shirts. I'd go single ply, multi ply, single ply, double ply, super. And then finally I just got tired of it and said, you know what? I'm just going to go for the record now, and that's all I'm going to freaking do. And all I did was focus on one shirt. And that's where I want to get myself again, to just focus on, get on the one shirt, focus on that, figure out where I want to keep my body weight, and just attack it, man.
Right.
And of course, first I want to hit 1,000 again. Then I want to hit my 11, break my 11, and then of course hit 12, and wherever it goes from there.
Absolutely. Well, if you find a good material and a way to get it sized, let me know because there's a 148 record that needs that door knocked on itself. So
Well, I think you'll like the blue a lot. For myself, I just got to figure out what my weight's going to be.
right, right. I know. I attempted to get one. You know what's funny, man, is I had this 44 in the red, and it fits. Honestly, it's a little loose in the sleeves. I got a 44 in the blue, and I can't even get it over my halfway at my forearm
With the slippers?
with the slippers.
Oh,
And the other 44 that's
in
supposedly,
football.
dude, I'm telling you, even
In,
the chest plate's like this compared to the other ones like that, and they're the same size.
yeah, but the thing is, you got to stretch it out first. Once you stretch it out, then it'll open back up. But if you
Mm.
can't get it on, you're going to have a hard time stretching
Well,
out.
that's the thing. I may have to talk to you about that and maybe get one that's bigger or, maybe like a 46, you know, possibly.
Hunter, you just have to realize you're a little bigger, man.
Huh?
You're just going to have to realize you're a little bigger, man.
Just 148 pounds of solid steel is unfortunately I can't fit it in a lot of bench shirts, so you know,
See, sometimes it sucks to be stronger and bigger.
I know it's a curse.
But anyway,
Anyway, so moving on, a couple other things I want to talk about as far as progression in the sport. We talked about bringing money back, money meets, things like that. Is there anything else that you feel like powerlifting's missing nowadays?
man, you know, the worst part, in my opinion, of course, is the magazine being gone sucks to hell.
Hmm.
Because with the magazine, you read about the meets. You could, it's one thing to see these videos and stuff, but the videos don't really show you the entire meet, and the other lifters. I mean, you got to see one guy or one girl did a great lift, but you don't get to hear about anyone else. So a lot of that kind of sucks, and it's gone away and stuff. I really wish we can get back to the point where a lot of meets were back at the ballrooms and all that, and not inside these people's gyms where it's basically turning into a CrossFit fest and everyone wants to be raw. But I'm not saying that to downgrade the raw lifting, but the facilities, it ain't the same. I mean, we actually used to be in these hotels that were really nice and ballrooms and having these huge meets, and you weren't sweating to death because it was a hot, humid day or something else. It was actually enjoyable in these places.
Right.
But you know,
I remember certain
that
hotels
stuff.
back in the day, man. They used to give you like vouchers to the buffet in the hotel for being in the meet. I've had that happen before, or like you said, there was like a massive ballroom, like Wobble Worlds. Shit, that was a 7-day event, and they had two ballrooms connected. They had one next to it, which was a weigh-in area, and a whole separate area that was totally aside from the meet that wasn't even connected. You know what I mean? So I mean, they had tons of space, whole giant back room with like a massive warm-up area, tons of chairs, and that room was packed. I mean, I remember in all 7 days, there's people there, the whole time.
Well, and the other part is it's the people who are holding the records now. Herb passed away many years ago, and I forgot who the other guy that I think someone else just recently passed, and it seems like a lot of the records aren't being kept as clean as they used to be, or they'll have some BS thing about they don't. I mean, I had problems with them trying to list my 1102 because they said the meet results weren't kicked in. It ain't my freaking fault the meet results weren't turned in. Whoever, it's like, dude, there's a freaking video. It's in the York Barbell Hall of Fame. What are we arguing about?
Right.
That's kind of stupid. But to me, it's just my biggest flaw in the sport is just the history is going away, just like it is in life. It's like everyone's trying to erase history, and you really shouldn't do that. You should really remember who all your big name lifters were. I mean, There's people out there who don't know who Anthony Clark is. Pretty soon they're not going to know who Scott Middleton is. Eventually, there's people who don't know who Tiny Meeker is. I mean,
Right.
you
Well,
know.
here's another question. This is about different lifters. Something else I saw recently. So a full meat lifter had a world record that was done on calibrated plates originally. Had their record broken at a big meet recently on pound plates by 0.1 pound. Not 0.5, not a pound, not a kilo, 0.1 of a pound for an all-time 3-lift record, only because the calibrated perfect kilo plates was 0.1 pound less than the pure 45-pound plate that is not calibrated. Somehow that's a world record. What's your opinion on that?
Well, first of all, I don't like chipping records anyway. I think.
Chipping. I thought you had to break a record by at least a chip. I thought 500 grams was the minimum.
Well, I'm just saying I like to smash records. I don't like to chip them.
I'm saying, bro. Like, I don't know, man. It's a personal thing. I mean, and I'll name the names. I'll say.
Well, I know exactly what you're talking about. I read it, but here's my opinion on it. What should have been done, since they weren't calibrated weights, should have been weighed. Someone should have weighed it afterwards, before or after or whatever. It should have been weighed, and then you really know if it was or wasn't. Just like when I
chip the paint off one of them plates. If a few lifters go up and pull it and drop it on the floor, whatever, there's your 0.1 pound right there, bro.
Yeah, well, you take a 100-pound plate. How many times you look at a 100-pound plate? 100-pound plate could be 105, could be 104, could be 99, could be 95. They're all different sizes. I mean, you go to your gym weighing your 45-pound plates. 45-pound plates are all different sizes and stuff.
A 45-pound plate can vary anywhere from 38 to 53 pounds. They did a study with like a bunch of different brands, and the averages ranged from 38 to 50-something pounds.
Now that's crazy. I never heard of that one, but I
have friends that have weighed their plates, and literally they have a 45 that weighs 7 pounds less than a different brand of 45, and they were wondering why their squats were all fucked up, leaning to one side. Yeah, it's because they weighed their plates and one plate was off.
Wow, I've never heard of them in the 30s. I mean, I picked up a 45-pound plate and I thought it weighed about 50 pounds, but I never picked up one of them.
There's some that weigh up to like 50-something pounds, like 52, 53 pounds or something like that, they said. And then the lighter ones is as light as like 38 pounds.
Yeah, but going on the lifter, here's the problem of the whole thing. Is it the lifter's fault that happened?
I would question the lifter's integrity if they knew what was up.
No. Again, that's the problem with it. It's not the same thing as the guy putting something underneath his shirt. You're lifting the meat. I'll take, for example.
I mean, he lifted the weight, and technically it was more on paper than others. So, I mean, it is the record, but the only problem I have with that is, like I said before, what I would like to see in powerlifting is standardization.
No, that I agree with it. But the problem is it wasn't done, and it's not the lifter's fault. I mean, if someone's telling him, well, all you gotta do is do that, that's what you're gonna do.
Especially if there's a lot of money involved, because as we know with all-time records.
Oh, he got a lot of money for it?
I mean, I would assume that he wasn't doing it for free. It's a famous individual who gets paid, so I wouldn't assume that he does anything for free these days.
Mine was free.
Tiny, you're a nice guy, and you want to give back to the community by showing them badass lifts. You're not trying to take all their money.
I didn't even get gas money, man. Hey, I did mine for a good cause. It was for a fundraiser to help a high school powerlifting group, and then it turned into a meet because I said they wanted me to lift, and I told them straight up. I said, look, I'll lift, but you got to get this thing sanctioned because it's going down. I'm prepared. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do it. I knew I was going to do it, dude. I'm doing pull-ups. I swear to God, I was doing pull-ups in the warm-up room, and I stopped myself going, what the frick am I doing? And I was just so relaxed, so chill that day. Open up 1080, smash it. I actually missed 1102. I knew exactly what I did wrong, came back, nailed it. Then I attempted 1135. But mentally, I knew that day, that week, everything, it was ready to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So now, Another meet I wish I could have done. There was a meet a few months after that in Corpus. I barely missed 11:30 something. Uh, and actually, that video is on it. It's like close to touching and goes right up.
Hmm.
Net bar, man. That's all I gotta say.
Right. Right. Oh, another topic I wanted to bring up, something that I don't think you've ever been asked or question. Have you ever been to Westside Barbell?
Absolutely. Me, Ryan, and Jimmy actually went up there and met up with George Halbert and got to see George and the morning crew. Went there at 5:30 in the morning. That's
Interesting. Did you hit
pretty
up the
freaking
Bob Evans?
early. That's what a really good time. Huh?
I said, did you hit up the Bob Evans?
Did I hit up with Bob Evans? Are you gonna get
Yeah,
me in
there's
trouble if I did or
apparently a
not?
famous Bob Evans that all those guys go out to breakfast at.
Oh no no no! Didn't go. I didn't go eat breakfast. I,
Hmm.
I, I went home and I went back to the hotel and spent some time with someone else.
Right. Right. Well, yeah.
But
I mean, what was your,
we,
did you talk to Louis Simmons at all? Have you ever met Louis Simmons?
I met Louis a few times, but he wasn't there that morning. But we were actually all three of us were there helping a certain lifter that asked if we would come by there, and he got knowledge from myself, from Ryan and Jimmy, and I actually did a little back with some of the other guys there, and then we took off. We spent about 2 hours there. We had a good time.
Hmm. What's your opinion of Louis Simmons?
Oh, I think Louis is a nice dude. I think his knowledge is incredible.
Do you utilize any of his training methodologies, or have you ever experimented with conjugate as far as like with your bench? And do you feel like it's valuable information? I mean, because you have the biggest bench in the world, so I mean, they have a lot of tools to build a bench press. I mean, is that something that you utilize, or you feel like is worthwhile, or?
Well, I do. There's things I take from everyone,
Hmm.
and then I have my own ways. I get some people get pissed because I don't write nothing down. It's all in my head. But I let my body tell me my workout. If my
Yeah.
body don't feel right, I either don't work out or I completely back off and do repetition stuff. So, when you listen to like the West Side movie and they're talking about guys injured coming in and still do their workout and this and that, no, I'm totally against that. That's me. I if I don't feel right, I do not work out. I don't give a shit. I don't like injuries. I don't like dealing with them. Um, I had injuries in football, and the rest of my stuff's from car wrecks, and I've only had one injury lifting weights. And I've learned from other people's mistakes. The guy that first kind of got me into sport again after high school, he started getting all crazy because some guy broke his world record, and next thing you know, he's benching 3 days a week, 4 days a week, almost 5 days a week. Next thing you know, he blows out both his shoulders, and I watched that. I'm like, when it started happening, I had to get away from him because I'm not going to do that to myself. I mean, I was already knew better, and now as an adult, I try to teach these younger people, hey man, I'm telling you, stop doing this, stop overtraining. You're going to overtrain. You're never going to do what you really could have done if you listen to me. Now, you take guys that may be on drugs and they can sit there and go, well, we recover better. Well, I bet I'd still be betting that even if you were and you still did my philosophy, you might see bigger numbers. No pain, no gain's a freaking lie.
Hmm.
No pain, more gain works. If that's why I take my GLC stuff, not to promote, but if you're aching, you ain't doing shit.
Right.
Straight up. If you're feeling great, you'll do great things. You can go even greater things. I mean, when I feel fantastic and I'm far away from a show, I'm doing absolute insane stuff. And I already know I put up insane numbers, but I'm doing things you would never. I'll call my teammate on a Saturday. Hey, man, I think I'm going to bench 1,400 Sunday. Yeah, you know what? I am going to bench 1,400 Sunday. And I come in Sunday and I'm benching 1,400 freaking pounds. My mindset's already there. My body's already saying I feel good. You better be there because we're gonna have a good time.
Hmm.
But there's just I don't believe in 2 day training on any body part. That's just me. You know, a lot of these guys
So as
don't believe.
far as like multiple times a week, like that speed day, max effort day, that's not something you adhere to,
Nope, I don't do it.
right? What
A
about the
lot of
other
people,
tools as far as accommodating resistance goes, bands and chains? Do you utilize those?
I do bands and chains, and again, that's stuff that I do more far away from the meet. When
Hmm.
I get closer to meet, my focus is on touching and on openers and on speed and recovery.
So the way it's
So
done on the platform, sport specificity, you feel is more important as you get closer to the meet versus all of the promoted variety that's out there.
yeah, I mean, what, you know, when you're far away from a show, we'll do chains, we'll do bands. We're always doing something different to shock the body that week, to change it up, to feel poundage. But not just me, but my lifters, I tell them when they come in, you got to be honest with me. If you don't feel right, I need to know this because if you feel good, I'm going to kick your ass. If you don't feel good, I need to back off and just, make sure you're okay. You know what I mean? But every time you walk in the gym, it is a completely different workout. It could be chains, it could be bands, it could be reverse bands, it could be high reps, it could be low reps. You have no clue what I'm going to do to you, especially if we're far away from a show.
Right. Right. I agree with that mentality 100%. Actually adhere to something very similar to myself, and I get into debates with some of my friends and fellow lifters, especially raw lifters nowadays. I have a few friends that are competing in the USAPL, and they follow very strict programming, and every day is a particular movement, and they're doing all three lifts sometimes in the same day, and doing
All
multiple
the time.
multiple times per week, and they're not progressing. I had one buddy, he was telling me over and over and over again. Every time I try to give him advice, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You did multiply. You don't know how raw works. You don't know how raw works. You don't know how raw works. Well, he was training, training, training. He'd worked himself up to a 420 raw squat at one point, right? Well, a year later, he was struggling to squat 390. And I said, well, if your programming is so perfect, and you measure everything, and you even got the little chip plates and everything, so everything's 100% correct. If that's so superior, why are you not squatting 500 pounds right now? You know,
So green.
that's the thing. It's like you got to do what works for your body, and I feel like a lot of guys nowadays they don't want to do it like I just mentioned you did. You and Scott and Ryan, you kind of made your own way, versus. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's educated coaches out there. I'm a personal trainer myself and a coach, but I feel as an athlete, you have to take it upon yourself at some point to gain the information from the coach, use it as a learning session, and take that and utilize it into making your own um, program for yourself based on what you like and what you don't like. It's almost as if you know uh, you're trying to build a massive foundation, but you don't build it all out of the exact same material. You don't go and try to build a house and buy thousands of pounds worth of only drywall. You buy everything else. You buy, the things that put up the house. You know what I mean? So it's like I feel like if you're trying to build a foundation in your lift, you need to get information from all kinds of
Well, when I tell these guys, first and foremost, I teach perfect form and technique, no
people.
matter who the lifter is. That is the absolute first thing. You can be a guy who's been lifting for 20 freaking years. You come in my gym to lift, and all of a sudden your form sucks. And that's the first thing I'm gonna fix. And then once you learn that form, all of a sudden we'll start seeing the magic. Because then once the form's perfect, we're gonna get crazy. But going on what you just said earlier about the guys going, I see this all the time now. These guys are walking in, doing all three lifts, every freaking workout, doing it 2 or 3 times a week. It's kind of like Olympic lifting.
That's
And
exactly how they're training, and they're wearing the same equipment. They're wearing Olympic squat shoes, and they're wearing knee sleeves, and they're training multiple times a week, and they're wondering why their joints always freaking hurt.
but it's funny. I remember the first time we were walking through the Arnold once, and I saw one of my friends who was doing Olympic lifting. And I said, "Oh, you're lifting today?" He goes, "Oh no, we lift tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, why are y'all working out?" He goes, "Oh, we lift every single day." Well, how crazy has the numbers in Olympic lifting changed over the years? I got a feeling they haven't dramatically changed much every year. They may slightly go up, but I got a feeling they're never dramatically different. And I almost feel if Olympic lifters would change the workout to more like a powerlifting workout where you're not doing it every freaking day, I bet their numbers would go up. But anyway, what I told this kid in my gym, I said, hey man, I don't know not one all-time world record holder that does all three lifts every fucking day. So until you can tell me of an all-time world record holder that does that every freaking day, I'll start trying to do all three lifts in a day. But until then, you might want to change your workout.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, honestly, just the frequency of some of the lifts that I've seen. Like some guys think that just because your hips are bigger that you can squat 3, 4, 5 days a week consistently in bench and deadlift on top of that. And I'm like, okay, the people who are doing that, first of all, have huge freaking joints and massive legs. And a lot of the people that promote squatting 5, 6 days a week squatted 900 in their first meet in a pair of running shoes before they even started training. They are not the people that you want to go to as a smaller, lighter individual to learn how to freaking build muscle and get stronger. They're people that already had it, and that's what worked for them because, they're, genetically, built for that. You know what I mean? I feel like your average lifter, your normal sized guy, is not going to be able to train that lift, 5, 6 days a week. And even the larger guys who are doing that and who have gained some success from it, they may have gotten a little bit better from their start base, but they're not making strides like guys, years and years ago that would start at one particular weight and 5, 6 years later he's lifting 500 more pounds. It's like the guy starts at 900 in his first meet and gets up to like a 960 squat, and all of a sudden he's like the freaking gospel.
But see, that's the problem with all those guys is no matter what, when they start off, they're of course going to see some gains because most of them are young.
Yeah, they can throw a rock at a wall and have it come back and smack them in the legs and it would grow.
Yeah. But eventually, is what you just said. Man, my shoulders are starting to hurt. My elbows are. It's like, oh yeah, no shit. It's because you're overtraining.
Yeah. Hey man, what happens when you run a car around the track for 1,000 laps?
Gotta get some new tires, new brakes.
Shit, like that's what I'm saying, man. Like, and they're like, oh, it's low intensity. Okay, you could go slower on those laps, but it's still the same amount of laps, bro.
That's right. But my man, I gotta go soon. What to do for two?
Into like multiple parts possibly on here, but yeah, man, it was great having this conversation, and I look forward to doing it more often, and potentially getting some more people on here that want to come in and have a conversation with you and talk about what you got going on in the sport, and I have a couple ideas myself, and I got some things that I'm gonna unveil into the sport of multiply powerlifting myself. For those of you who are not aware, we do have a Facebook group, Multiply Powerlifting, that I'm running currently. I noticed that when I went on Facebook, we have zero community. That there's absolutely no group on there for multiply powerlifters to come and just speak to each other and have a sense of genuine sense of community. So I've built that for us. So if you want to go on Facebook and add yourself to the multiply powerlifting page, I would suggest to do so. I look forward to seeing more videos of Tiny, I guess.
Coming soon. Coming soon. You gotta get rid of this virus stuff, and then we'll see some nastiness coming soon.
Yeah, like the cure for the coronavirus is a 1,300-pound bench.
1,400. 1,400. Don't be scared. 1,400.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, don't forget, take your GLC products every single day, first and last meal every day.
Absolutely. It's good stuff. All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you, and like I said, look forward to doing this again real soon.
Absolutely. Had a blast. Thank you, Hunter.
All right, man. Have a nice night, Tiny.
Stay strong.